Hi budding engineers, welcome to Structural Engineering Lectures and welcome to the new playlist on analysis and design of structures using StatPro, ETABS, Excel spreadsheets, seismic and wind analysis. In the previous class we have seen the analysis and design, of portal frame using StatPro, that of an assembly building, tutorial verification with manual calculation like this. Right? In today's class we shall see the design of this portal frame, that of a multi-story building, analysis and design of RCC building substitute frame using StatPro, verification with manual calculations, right? Conforming to IS 456 2000 code, which is the Indian Standard Code of Practice for plain and reinforced concrete, as well as SP 16 1980 design aids for reinforced concrete to IS 456 1978, right? Conforming to limit state method, right? That is how we will see the design of a portal frame, that of a multi-storied building student, right? Now, before we see the actual discussions, let us see the brief profile of the speaker, that of mine, right? This is how the brief biodata. I, Dr. D. Rupesh Kumar, has obtained my BTech Civil Engineering from Nagarjuna University in 1994 and MTech Structural Engineering from JNTU Hyderabad in 2000 and PhD Structural Engineering from JNTU Hyderabad in 2009. Presently, I am working as the Associate Professor in Department of Civil Engineering, University College of Engineering, Hyderabad, Telangana State, right? I have an experience of 27 years, of which 7 years is in industry and 20 years is in teaching and research at graduate, postgraduate levels, right? My research areas include reinforced concrete designs, steel designs, structural analysis, point element analysis, earthquake engineering, bridge engineering, structural optimization. I have published 45 research publications in national and international journals, conferences, right? Organized 3 international conferences and 11 national conferences, workshops, and attended 43 workshops, visited 2 countries, and delivered 13 guest lectures and edited 3 books. I am supervising 14 PhD research scholars and supervised 30 ME theses, right? I am presently actively involved in various consultancy works that are offered by the department and completed 750 such design proof checks works, and as well as 150 designs of the RCC, steel, composite buildings, high-rise towers, road and rail bridges. Once we see this brief profile, student, let us just move quickly to the top the discussion, student, right? That is how we'll see the design of a portal frame of that of a building, right? Now, that is how this is a typical schematic view of a multi-story building, student, that of the RCC multi-story building, right? I do have the frame which is consisting of that of these columns, right? Columns which are connected by means of the beams like this, right? And over these beams, what is resting is the slab, right? There is the columns, right, which are connected with the beam side, over which what is resting is the slab, right? Like that is how the connectivity between the various structural members, right? Slab resting on the beam connected to the top of the column, right? And all these columns are supported on the rigid foundation at the base, right? That is of the schematic. This is just I am showing here. This is a basement floor, right? And this is the ground floor, right? This is the first floor, this is the second floor, right? Therefore, now we'll say this as the ground floor roof, this is the first floor, this is the second floor, this is the terrace floor roof, right? Therefore, this is how 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 slabs are there. 4 slabs are there, or it is G+3 storied building, right? Or we will also examine another schematic, student, like this, right? Therefore, that is another schematic. What you have seen is same, right? The slabs resting on the beams, right? Resting on the beams in turn, which are connected between the columns, right? Even in x direction as well as this, the x direction as well as the z direction in stat. However, all these columns are transferring the load onto the footings, right? Now, or let us see that of a real building student. Now this is how I do have a real building, right, wherein I do have the slabs, all these slabs are resting on these beams, right, on these beams, right, and these beams are connected between the columns, right. Now you can see 1 2 3 4 columns, right. That is how the this beam is three span continuous, or this beam is three span continuous. Even in the other direction you can see this is three span continuous, right. Even we can see the staircase at the other side, right. Even in the front side we do have the three as well as a three span continuous portal frames are seen, right. Now however, let us move to another schematic, student, right. However, in today's class we shall see the analysis of this portal frame, wherein we'll try to design, analyze the portal frame, as well as we'll try to design the beams and columns that of these beams, right, that of these beams as well as that of these columns, right. That is the design of the beam and column, right, that we'll discuss, student, right. Now, or also I'm showing another schematic, right, wherein I do have a multi-story building, right. Frames are shown, right. Now that is how, right, ground 1 2 3 4 floors, G plus 4 floors, right, G plus 4 floors. Even you can see here the staircases there, later on it is discontinued, right. Now, or let us see another multi-story building I do have now, that is how ground plus 1 2 3 4 5 6, right, ground plus 1 2 3 4 5 6 storied, right, G plus 6 storied building, wherein I do have these framing, right. Therefore, now let us move to the top of the previous schematic. I'll move to the top of this previous schematic, student. Now I want to analyze this frame, that of this frame, right. Therefore, in STAT it can be done using a 3D analysis, but to start with, even for simple structures where the loading is not changing, as well as the spans like this, right. The span means the grids are there, at regular spacing. Now you can see here the grid is there at regular spacing, right. This is the first column, right, first column grid, right. That is the second column grid, so on and so forth. If the grids are there at regular spacing, right, even you can see in the transverse direction also grid is there, right. Therefore, in such cases we can make use of the substitute frame method. Even I do have the grid, right, even the second row is also having 1 2 3 4 columns, right, like this, right. Therefore, is a perfectly here I do have the perfect grids here. Therefore, such type of structures where perfect gridding, the grids are available there, we can use the substitute frame method for analysis and design. But now let us see in this apartment building, we can see that the columns are not there in perfect grid, right. Therefore, let us see this example, right, where I do have a column here, right, and there is an offset for this column, right. Even there is an offset for column, right. Therefore, they are not there in perfect grid. Therefore, even here, right, the offsets are seen in a particular grid. Therefore, in such cases, right, this substitute frame method cannot be used, student, right. Now, assuming that we would have perfect grid spacing like this, right, perfect grid spacing, right. That is how that the grid, right, along which I do have three columns, right. Even in this transverse direction, I do have a grid connecting all the columns by means of beams. Even if second row is there with the same number of 4 columns, right, then if no change in load is there, then I can make use of this substitute frame method. Now let us see. I want to analyze a typical floor of this multi-stored building. Like this, right? Therefore, now I'll take this. Let us say that of the first floor. Right, this is a ground floor, right. Above that ground floor, I'll take half the height of these columns, right, and below this ground floor, I'll take the half the height of these columns, right, like this, right. Now let us see this, right. Therefore, these are the ground floor, student, right. Therefore, now what I'll do is I want to analyze that of the first floor roof beam, right. This is what the ground floor roof beam. I want to analyze this first floor roof beam. Therefore, now what I'll do is I'll take half the height from this first floor slab towards the ground floor slab. Then I'll also move from first floor slab to that of the second floor slab, half the height, right. Therefore, now I'll consider half the height half the height of this column, right? Now I'll take right a cut view which is looking like this, right? Therefore that is how half the height of this column, half the height of this column below that story, half the height of this column above story, and the beams connecting these columns, the beams connecting this column. This is what the substitute frame what I'm trying to analyze as well as design, right? I hope you understood what I'm trying to do, right? Once I see this, let us see this schematically, right? Therefore now I do have this building is having, say, this is a ground floor building, student, right? Ground floor building, right? Sorry, these are the ground floor slab, right? These are the first floor slab, second floor slab, third floor slab, wherein I do have, right, 1 2 3 base, right? Three base like this, right? And therefore 1 2 3, right, base of the this one, and 1 2 3 4 four-storied building, right? Therefore that is what schematically shown. I'm just taking one plane, student, right? This plane passing through this grid line 1 1. Let us say this as a grid line 1 1. Therefore that that elevation I'm showing, right? Therefore that is how it is 1 2 3 bay 1 2 3 4 4-storied or G+3 storied building, right? These are the ground floor slab, first floor slab, second floor slab, third floor, or terrace floor slab, right? However, what we can do is, in order to analyze this using the portal frame, what now I need to do is, now you can analyze that of this the top story, right? Therefore you cut that of the half of this column, right? Half of this column, right? And you consider what now I'm showing on the right hand side is that of, right? There is all just a cut, right? I'll consider a cut section here. Right? Therefore that half of that height of the column connected to that of the beams is shown here for the top story, like that. Now if you want to analyze that of this say the story below that top story, right? Therefore now you take this half of this height to half of this height of this column above and below that considered story, right? Therefore this is for the middle story, the substitute frame. I'm showing a substitute frame for the middle story. Likewise you can consider for any other story, right? Now if you want to analyze this, then we can make use of the manual calculations, or alternatively even I can analyze this using the stat, right? Now let us see how the manual calculations can be done, in today's class, right? This is how the problem definition, student, right? We are there in this problem definition, analysis and design of RCC typical floor substitute frame conforming to IS 456 2000, right? Wherein this is how I have just considered. So far I have just explained how I got this substitute frame that of a multi-stored building, right? Like this, right? Wherein now the problem definition is like this: the substitute frame at a typical floor level of a multi-storied building, just now I've shown, frame is as shown in the figure. Calculate the midspan maximum positive bending moment in AB span of the beam, as well as the maximum support moment at B, means negative moment at the support, right? And design and detail the beam as well as that of the column, right? In today's class we shall only see the design of the beam with manual calculation, right? Whereas the design of the column with stat itself. Once I verify the designs with that of the manual calculation with that of the stat, now I'll skip off the designs, manual calculations of the columns. I'll likely show with the stat itself, right? Now take dead load WD, W to the subscript D as 10 kN per meter, and live load is equal to 15 kN per meter. Assume all the size of the columns as 300 by 300 by, right? This is of the 300 by 450, and that of all the beams, right? Its width is equal to 300 mm and depth is equal to 600 mm. Use M25 grade concrete and Fe 415 grade steel, right? That is how the schematic that of a substitute frame of that of a multi-story building is now shown, right? Therefore here I would have the spacing of the beams at every 5 meters, almost approximately say 15 feet span, right? Even now I would have almost say half of this, right? Almost this is a double story building. The height of the floor is 8 meter. I am considering that of a commercial building. Therefore the height, floor to floor height is equal to 4 meter. Therefore half the height is equal to 8 by 2, 4 meter, as well as 4 meter, right? That is how the column height above that beam level is 4 meter, and below 4 meter is what given. However, if at all other values there, let us say generally for residential buildings the story height will be of the order 3 to 3.2 meter, 3 to 3.2 meter, right? Then in which case here let us say even if it is a 3.2 meter, here 1.6 will come into picture. If it is 3 meter, then here 1.5 will come into picture. Now this is that of a commercial building, student. Commercial building, what I have just shown in the schematic, right? Therefore for which I am trying to analyze and design using this substitute frame method, right? Now let us see the manual calculations at a quicker pace, student. Then we'll go to the stat analysis come design, right? Now I'll say this continuous beam as ABCD, right? ABCD, right? And I'll give the numbering of these columns as IH, right? GJ and FK and EL. These are my notations of the columns and beams in this grid, right? Now what is given data? What is given data is already noted down, right? Like this, right? The dead load is given as a 10 kN per meter and live load as 15 kN per meter, and the size of the columns is equal to 300 by 450, and size of the columns is equal to 300 by 450, and that of the beams is 300 by 600. And M25 grade concrete means characteristic compressive strength is equal to 25 Newton per mm square, and yield strength of the steel, is equal to 415 grade steel, right? Now this is how the different inputs are given. Right? For these inputs I need to do the design, right? Now at the end we'll also see the designs of the columns and this one also, and as well as that of how the reinforcement can be provided. This also we'll see, right? After designing, we'll try to see what are the our intention is to design the beam for a negative steel at the support as well as the positive steel at the midspan for the beam, as well as our aim is to design the column in today's class. Only these two components we'll see, will not design the other components, student, right? Now I hope you're understanding these discussions, right? Now I'll enter into the manual calculation, students. Therefore now I do have the moment of inertia of the beam, right? Now I do have the depth of the width of the beam is 0.3 meter, therefore, and the depth is equal to 0.6. Therefore, if at all it is supported onto the column, right, obviously due to the applied loads it will be bending like this. Therefore, this is the depth 0.6 will come into picture. Right? I'm just showing a beam supported on two columns, and therefore under the dead load and live load there is a positive bending moment, right? There is the flexure, whereas at the support it is the negative bending moment, like this, right? Negative bending moment, right? Therefore I would have the moment of inertia of this beam as BD cubed by 12, right? B is 0.3 multiplied by 0.6 whole cubed by 12, or it works out to 5.4 10 to the power minus 3 meter to the power 4 moment of inertia. Like that, the size of the column is given as 300 by 450 mm. Therefore, the moment of inertia of this column is equal to 0.3 multiplied by 0.45 whole cube divided by 12, or it is equal to 2.278 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 3 meter to the power 4. Once I get this, now what I'll do is I'll multiply with the factor of safeties to get the factored loads, right? Now this is how the factored dead load is equal to 10 multiplied by 1.5, because the factor of safety for dead load and live load combination is equal to 1.5 from IS 456, student. Therefore 10 multiplied by 1.5 is equal to 15 kN per meter, and that of the dead load and live load combination also 10 plus 5, because 10 dead load plus 15 live load, that multiplied by 1.5. Therefore 25 multiplied by 1.5 works out 37.5 kilonewton per meter. These are the factored loads. Factored loads. However, you already know the conditions for the substitute frame method, right? How to get the maximum midspan positive bending moment, how the loading should be there, right? Now, in order to get that maximum midspan positive bending moment, right? Maximum midspan positive bending moment, like I said, at the midspan. In order to achieve that, what we need to do is that we apply the dead load and live load on the span AB and CD, whereas we need to apply dead load only on the intermediate span BC. Then only I'll get the maximum positive bending moment in the span AB. I am analyzing the span AB. Therefore, with this loading condition only, I'll achieve the maximum positive bending moment in the span AB. Right? Therefore, once you understood that, now I'll show that. I'll also show schematically. Now let us calculate the fixed end moment, student. Right? Therefore, I do have the fixed end moments on the beam. Right? However, with that of the dead load and live load, minus 37.5 multiplied by its span is equal to 5 square divided by 12, or it works out as minus 37.125 kilonewton meter, which is also equal to MFCD, right? Same is applicable also. MFBA is equal to MFBA is equal to minus 78.125, which is equal to however MFDC is equal to plus value, right? 78.125, right? Because of the symmetry of the structure what we have considered, right? And that of the MFBC, right? Because in the midspan only it is loaded with the dead load only. Therefore, the dead load intensity is equal to factor dead load is equal to 15. Therefore, 15 multiplied by 5 square divided by 12. It works out say minus 31.25 in BC. Starting from B to C, it is minus 36.25. Whereas at the CB, it is plus 31.25. That is how the moment of the fixed movements will be in the opposite direction to that of the applied positive flexure. Like that, if the load is applied, obviously that is bending like this, whereas the moment of the fixed movements will be in the opposite direction. Therefore, it is minus 36 and clockwise is plus 31.25 at the other end, right? My assumptions are that clockwise couples of the fixed movements are positive, anti-clockwise couples are negative, right? Then we'll be doing this using moment distribution method. Therefore, now in order to do that, now I need to find out the distribution factors, right? Therefore, what now I'll do is I'll take that of the joint A, right? Where at the joint A I have to have these members A, B, A, H, A, I, whereas the relative stiffness of these members are that of the AB, right? AB is that of the beam, first beam, right? Which is 5 meter length. Therefore, I divide by 5. What is the moment of inertia of this beam? We already calculated. Therefore, you divide that moment of inertia of the beam, IB divided by 5. I'll get that numeric value the stiffness is equal to 1.08 10 to the power minus 3. Like that, that of the column IC divided by 4, because the column height from the beam to that of the half the height of the story is 4 meter. Therefore, the moment of inertia of the column is already calculated. You divide with 4. Now I'll get 5 point in both the cases. For both the columns, I'll get 5.7 10 to the power minus 3. Right? Once I get this, what now I'll do is I'll sum up all these, right? The stiffnesses. Therefore, that summation will now work out 2.22 10 to the power minus 3, student. Right? Therefore, now I'll find out what is the distribution factor. Distribution factor for this beam is equal to that stiffness of that beam 1.08 10 to the power minus 3 divided by 2.22. This divided by this 2.22 10 to the power minus 3. Therefore, that now also 1.08 divided by 2.22. It is around up to the fourth decimal 0.4865. Right? Like that of the columns is equal to 5.7 5.7 10 to the power minus 3 divided by this 5.7 10 to the power minus 4 10 to the power minus 4 divided by 2.22 10 to the power minus 3. It now works out 0.2568 approximately, right? At joint A, right? At joint A, I got the distribution factors for the member AB as 0.4865, for the column AH as 0.2568, and for column AH 0.2568, right? Like that, I think student, now we can do at a quicker pace at the for the at the joint B. Now doing which you will get, these are the different distribution factors. For BG you will get 0.173, for BA you will get 0.327, BC 0.327, BJ is equal to 0.137. You please see that BG itself is, because of the symmetry, BJ 0.137, right? Like that, you please do at the other joints also, right? At joint C, right? CF itself is CK, which is having 0.173 distribution factor. CP and CD both are having 0.327, whereas at joint D I would have the DC is 0.4865, and DE and DL, right? This DE and this DL both are having 0.2568 approximately, because this is perfectly the mirror image of this, right? Even this column is perfectly mirror image of this, because of this loading is mirror image, because of this loading is also mirror image, right? Therefore now I have to have the distribution factors. The distribution factors are obtained, right? Please make a note that student, the this substitute frame method is only applicable if at all the loading is not changing over the different grids, over the different grids, right? And if all the grids are there in particular line, there is no offset of these columns, right? Then once I get that, now let us move to the next subheading, student, right? Now I'll calculate using the movement distribution method. Using movement distribution method, what is my final movements, right? Now I have to have this joint A B C D, right? At which I have to have, remember, AB, right? At joint B, BA BC, right? At joint C, CB CD. At joint D I have to have DC. However, the distribution factor, just now we have calculated that. I'm just making note of 0.4168 and 0.327, 0.327, 0.327, 0.327, and 0.4868 for the various members, right? Even I'll note down the fixed moments, right? I'll note down the fixed moments like this, right? Therefore these are my fixed moments, right? For various members, minus 78.125 plus 78.125 minus 31.25 plus 31.25 minus 78.125 plus 78.125, right? These are my fixed movements. However, once I do this, now I can see that, right, this support end, this being a discontinuous support, what now what I can do is that, right, now even at joint B, there is unbalanced movement of 78.125 minus 31.25. Therefore that multiplied by 0.327 with change in sign, that now works out 15.328 with minus sign, as well as the same is the distribution factor. Therefore minus 15.328, that is how I'll get the unbalanced movements, right? Now however, this the 78.125 will be distributed, will also be this 78.125 will also be done 50%, right? Now that works out, say, 38.008, right? That is how now I'll do the balancing of the movements at the joint A, B, C, D, so on and so forth, right? Once I do that balancing of the movements, student, now what I'll do is I'll carry over, right? I'll carry over because I got minus 15.328. Therefore, I'm just carrying over to the other opposite side as half of that value with change in sign, right? Therefore, minus 15.328, right? Now I'll get 7.664, right? 7.664, right? Like this, right? Now even this will be carried over with 19 point this one, right? That is how now I'll just carry over and I'll try to get the movements at the end of this first cycle, right? Movements at the end of this first cycle, right? Therefore now you just continue, right, till the movements there is no change in movement with that of the previous cycle to that of the next cycle, right? Maybe in now I have to have, say, one cycle completed, right? Second cycle, right? After second cycle, I am showing these results, right? When you can carry say one or two more cycles, right? Therefore, at the end of this second cycle, I have to have there is no much change. I have just noticed that there is no much change. Therefore, I have to have the results, right? Like that, right? Now I'm having the final moments, right? Which I'm just making note of, right? Which I'm just making note of, right? Now this is how my final moments, right? These are at the AB minus 46.714, right? BA 73.74, and CB 49.814, right? Like that, other movements I'm just making note of. These are the final movements, right? Therefore, once I have this now. I'll see what my intention is to get the maximum positive movement in the span AB. Therefore, what is the free bending moment? Assuming that if it already is simply supported, right? Now I do have the free maximum bending moment with simple supports as W square by 8, 37.5 multiplied by 5 square divided by 8 means 117.19 kilonewton meter. However, I already have this negative bending moment, right, of 73.74. At the other end, I do have this result as say 49.814. Therefore, I'll take average of these two. I'll subtract this value from this positive bending moment of 117.187. Now I'll get to say 56.91. 56.91 is my positive bending moment at the mid span, right? And similarly, now I'll do the analysis like this, right? Whereas the maximum shear force at the support, right? Now, in order to do that, what now I'll do, because I know these movements, right? This is what 46.814 movement, right? Negative movement, right? Fixed movement, and this is 73.14, right? 73.14. Sorry, student, it should be, this value should be 46.714, not 49, right? 46.714. There is a writing error here, right? Therefore, these movements just now we have seen, right? These values are there, right? Right. This is AB and this is BA, right? Therefore, A to B, this much of bending moment is there. 46.314. B to A 73.74. This analysis we have done, and we have seen the positive bending moment also at the midspan 56.91. Subjected to this loading. However, in order to get that shear force, right, shear force or support reaction, what now I'll do, I'll take some of the moments about this point joint A is equal to 0. Therefore, now I do have RB multiplied by 5 plus the couplet joint A fixed movement is equal to 46.184, which are both are anti-clockwise couples is equal to sum of the clockwise couples 37.5 constant multiplied by 5 concentrated distance of 5 by 2, and the clockwise couplet joint B 73.74. Therefore, solving which you will get RB, the support reaction at joint B is equal to 99.14 kilonewton approximately. Therefore, now RA is equal to total download load minus 99. Now I'll get that the support reaction at A as this A is equal to 88.365. Okay, student, right? This is how I got the maximum positive bending moment in the midspan. Now I'll move to that of the case 2, wherein if we already know using the substitutive frame method that if we want to get the support moment at joint B of the span AB, then what we need to do is we need to apply the factored dead load and live load. On two spans adjoining to that span, right? Adjoining to that joint, right? Adjoining to that joint B, I do have the joint. Adjoining to that joint B, I do have the span AB. Therefore, that AB as well as adjoining to this joint BC, right? Therefore, on these two spans, I need to apply the factor dead load plus live load, whereas at the other joints you just multiply. Put only the dead load. That is how the loading diagram, student, right? Now I hope you understood the loading diagram I have shown. Once I do that, now I think we can do at a quicker pace. This I already explained in the previous subheading that now I'll use the moment distribution method, right? Therefore, I do have this joint, right? Joint ABCD and member AB, BA, BC, CB, CD, DC, right? Whereas the distribution factors are just noted down and fixed movements are noted down, and I'm just doing 1 or 2 cycles. Therefore, the final movements, right? Now I'm getting the final movements like this. I'm just skipping off for want of time, student, because already explained. Even in the previous class video also I explained that elaborately. In now also in today's class I've just explained in the previous subheading elaborately, right? Therefore, my final movements are like this: that 41.27, 93.47 minus 88.66, 63.22, and minus 50.16, 12.97, right? Therefore, now the maximum support moment at joint B from this I do have 93.667, 93.466 kilonewton meter. That I have just noted down this value, right? 93.46. Whereas at a joint A I do have 41.27, 41.27. That is how the movements are noted down, and this is the loading. Therefore, now I'll get the support reactions. Therefore, I just have explained how to get the support reaction. Therefore, taking some of the movements about this joint A, I have this RA multiplied by 5 plus 41.272 is equal to 93.466 plus 37.5 multiplied by 25 divided by 2. Solving it, now we will get the support reaction at joint B, right? At joint B has 104.19 kilonewton, whereas if I subtract from the total downward load, I'll get the reaction at A, support reaction at A as 83.31 kilonewton, right? I hope, student, how we did the analysis using manual calculation. So far we have done the analysis, student. Now let us see the designs using manual calculation before we go for the stat. Right? Now I'll initiate the design at a quicker pace, student. Right? Therefore, this is how the design of the beam, right? AB. For now, I'm just noting down the maximum positive bending moment. Just now we got 56.91. That already shown here, right? 56, right? This value, right? 56.91. Therefore, that value I just noted down, right? And maximum support moment here. Just now we saw 93.46, and also we have just noted down that the maximum support reaction, right? Maximum support reaction is equal to 104. These are my final design movements. I am there in the design page, student, right? Therefore, manual calculations of the designs, right? And the beam actual depth is equal to overall depth is equal to 600, assuming a clear cover of 25 minus assuming a diameter of 16 mm. Now I get 600 minus 25 minus 16 by 2. I'll get 567. If I assume 25 mm as the clear cover. However, if you assume 25 mm itself as the effective cover, student, then the effective depth is equal to 575. Here the calculations are done assuming 25 mm as the effective cover, right? Otherwise you may assume that effective cover as 567. Now, in either of the case, the designs will not change by much amount. Now that I will show, right? However, we already know from this IS 456 class G 1.1. C page number 96 or that of this SP16 1980 table C page number 9 page number 10 right? Now let me visit to that SP16, student, right? I am there in this SP16, right? Therefore, from this, what I am just making note of, for Fy is equal to 415, Mu lim divided by FCK ability square is equal to 0.138. Therefore, once I note down that, I will have that coefficient. Is equal to 0.138. Therefore, 0.138. I just made a note of, right? Therefore, for that, what is the depth of this section required? Therefore, I have depth of this section required is equal to Mu divided by 0.138 FCKB. Substituting the numeric values. However, the maximum bending moment is equal to 93.46 Newton mm divided by 0.138 multiplied by 25 multiplied by 300. All the units what I am substituting are in terms of Newton mm. Now I get by taking this, I'll get the depth required is equal to 300.5. However, the provided effective depth is 560 567 by assuming that clear cover as 25, or if I assume that as effective cover, the provided effective depth is equal to 575. In either case, this 300 is much less than that 575 or 567. Therefore, it is okay. That is what my first conclusion, student. Then second conclusion is that here the concrete provided is much more than that of the required for the balance section. Therefore, the section is now acting as if the under reinforced section, means the steel is not stressed to the maximum permissible stresses. Concrete is because more concrete is provided, Therefore, this is under reinforced, right? Sorry, here this is the under reinforced section. Under reinforced section means the steel is not effectively utilized because you poured more concrete, therefore steel is not effectively utilized. That is what my second conclusion, right? Therefore, once I know that, then for under reinforced section from this class IS 456 class, right? This G 1.1.B, page number 96, page number 100. Let us visit that educator page, right? And then in that page, right? Therefore, I am there in IS 456 2000, right? I do have these for rectangular section. HU by D is equal to 0.87 FIH divided by 0.36 FCK BD, right? And MU is given by 0.87 FIH D multiplied by 1 minus FIH divided by FCK BD to get the moment at a given section, right? Moment of resistance. And MU limit is equal to 0.36 HU max by D 1 minus 0.42 HU max by D BD square FCK. Using this system, just now you have got this coefficient. This MU limit is equal to 0.138 multiplied by FCK BD square. That now you have observed. Therefore, however, using this B, MU is equal to 0.87 FI multiplied by this. However, multiplying this, now I get a quadratic equation in terms of AST, solving which the unknown value, area of the steel at that section, can be obtained. That is what we need to do. However, alternatively, even you can use this equation, student, where AST can also be given. By solving that quadratic equation, I'll get AST is equal to 0.5 FCK divided by FI 1 minus square root of 1 minus 4.6 MU divided by FCK BD square multiplied by BD, right? Either of the two will give the same answer. Therefore, if I substitute the inputs, FCK is equal to 25, FI is equal to 415, and MU is equal to 56.91. I am designing at the mid span for positive bending moment. Therefore, I am substituting 56.91 kilonewton meter, and B is equal to 300 and effective depth either 575 or 567 as appropriate. Therefore, substituting which, now you will get the area of the steel required is equal to approximately 282 mm per student. But however, as per this codal specification, IS 456 class 26.5.1.1, page number 47, right? Page number 47. Just one moment, student. Page number 47 means I am there in that page number 47, right? Page number 47. Therefore, from this class, I do have this formula for minimum steel is given by AST by BD is equal to 0.85 Fi. Therefore, substituting into this, now I'll get the area of the steel required. However, B, D, Fi you can substitute. You can do on your own, student, right? Therefore, I require minimum area of the steel is equal to roughly 353 mm square. But I got from bending at the mid span, I got 281 is much less than this area of the minimum steel 353. Therefore, this 281 will not govern the design. The design for a flexion will not govern, but only the minimum tension steel criteria will govern the design. That is what my conclusion. Right? Now we will see, right? Therefore, by assuming say 16 mm dia bars, right? What even I can do is I can provide 12 mm dia bars. Therefore, say for 353 divided by 12 means 113. Now I require 3.12. Either you provide 4 12 mm dia bars as positive steel, or alternatively what you can do is you can provide next higher diameter is 16 mm. Therefore, if I use 16 mm dia bars, just you require 1.75 number of rods. Therefore, either you provide 2 12 mm dia bars, right? 2 12 mm dia bars or 2 12 mm dia bars, right? As appropriate, right? Not 3, right? Not 3, right? However, let us see how much of reinforcement is required. How much of reinforcement is required at the support at the column support. However, there I do have a bending moment of 93.66. Therefore, rest of the inputs are same. Where now I'll get substituting with, now I'll get the area of the steel required is equal to, for flexure point of view, 472 mm square. However, the minimum area of the steel what we require at that is 353. Therefore, 353. Therefore, here the design is governed by the flexure at that location, not by the minimum tension steel criteria. 472 will govern the design. 472 is much greater than this minimum area of the steel, student, right? You need to remember this, right? Most of the times students will forget this check. Therefore, we must do this check, student, right? And right, therefore 472 will govern the design, not the minimum steel, whereas in the previous case not that 282 but minimum steel govern the design, right? That is how the change in the outputs, right? Therefore now I require 471. Therefore for that 471, right, assuming 6 mm dia bars, now I require 2.32 number of rods. Therefore R say 3 16 mm dia bars, therefore provide 3 16 mm dia bars at the support, right, like this, right? Now I'll move to the top of the design, right? Now I'll show like this, just bear for a moment, right? That is how I need to provide 3 16 mm dia bars, right, at this continuous support. Now I'm showing in the beam at this support, right, 1 2 3 number of rods for the negative steel, whereas for the positive steel I got just a 2 16 mm right here at the midspan of this beam, or at the midspan of this beam. Alright, we have analyzed this first span, student, right? If I got either 216 or 312 mm as appropriate, right? That is how the design, right? I got the negative steel 316 mm, student, whereas the positive steel I got using 16 mm 2 rods only, or 316 as appropriate. That is how the design for the positive steel and negative steel is now concluded, right? Once I do that, now I'll check for the shear. Now I'll move into the design for the shear. Therefore, how much of shear reinforcement is required? Just now we have seen that maximum shear force at that support P is equal to 104.19 kilonewton. Therefore, the nominal shear stress is VU by BD. Substituting which, now we will get 0.604 Newton per mm square. However, already provided the steel at this support, right? At this support, student, right? At this support, I have just provided for this maximum negative bending moment of this, I have provided 360 mm dia bars. Therefore, now the area of the steel provided at that section is equal to 3 multiplied by 201, 603 mm square is provided. Therefore, percentage of the steel provided is equal to how much? Therefore, PD is equal to 100 H divided by PD. Now I'll get 0.35 approximately. Therefore, from table 19 of IS 456 from page number 73. Let me just quickly visit, right? Table, one moment, right? From table from page number 73, one moment, right? Therefore, page number 73, I am there in page number 73, student. That is how from this table I need to interpolate, right? Therefore, I do have for M25 grade concrete for 0.25, PT is equal to 0.36 and 0.5, that tau C is equal to 0.49. I am there in the table 19 of IS 456, which is the design shear strength of the concrete, tau C, Newton per mm square. Therefore, now I need to interpolate. Therefore, upon interpolation, I'll get this for 0.35, approximately 0.35. What is the design shear strength of this concrete? It works out to approximately 0.412 Newton per mm square. 0.412. However, the nominal shear stress is equal to 0.604. Is much greater than this design shear strength of 0.411. Therefore, the design for the shear must be done. Therefore, now I'll initiate. What is the spacing required as per this IS 456 class 40.4, page number 73. Let me go to that page number 73 student. I'm already there in the same page, 73, right? Therefore, what now I'll do? What now I'll do is design for shear is required. Therefore, shear reinforcement shall be provided to carry a shear equal to VU minus tau C BD with vertical stirrups. VUS is equal to 0.87 FI ASV D divided by SV. However, Fi should not be greater than 415. Fi should not be greater than 415, right? Therefore, now I'll do that at a quicker pace, student. Therefore, that is how now I'm getting that. Upon substitution, I think you can do on your own, student, right? I'm substituting here. I'm assuming 8 mm dia, 2-legged vertical stirrups. Therefore, the ASV is equal to 2 multiplied by pi by 4, 8 square, 2 multiplied by 50.2, right? 100.4. ASV is equal to 100.4, right? Other values you can substitute. Therefore, the depth either 575 or 567, right? And the shear carried by this stirrups, just now we have seen VU minus tau C BD, right? Therefore, now I'll get the spacing of these stirrups is a very large value, very large value, right? Approximately 629 mm square, student. Is it acceptable by the code? Now let us check, right? However, as per this class, right, of IS 456, class page number 73, class 40.4, let us revisit to that, right? Let us revisit to that. I do have the minimum spacing, minimum area of the stirrups should be also be provided, right? Minimum area of the spacing of the stirrups should also be provided, right? How? Like this, right? Now, one moment, right? That is from page number 47. Let me go to that page number 47, right? Page number 47. I am there in that page number 47, right? Therefore, using this, I do have the minimum spacing of the stirrups is also given by ASV by BSV is equal to 0.4 divided by 0.87 Fi, right? Minimum shear reinforcement criteria, right? And also, because we are using this vertical stirrup, now the code says from page number 47 of IS 456, maximum spacing of shear reinforcement should not be more than 0.7 D for vertical stirrups. However, in no case the spacing should exceed 400 mm. Therefore, now let me do these calculations at a quicker pace, right? Therefore, if I calculate using this, now I would have what is that? From minimum shear criteria point of view, ASV by BSV should be greater than or equal to 0.4 divided by 0.87 Fi. If I substitute the different numeric values using 8 mm 2-legged vertical stirrups, I'll get spacing should not be more than 394 mm. However, I got approximately 629 is not acceptable by the code. You restrict from minimum shear reinforcement point of view, not more than 394. Therefore, 394 will govern the design, not this design of the shear is not governing the design, right? Design for the shear is not governing what as per the code, just minimum shear reinforcement criteria is governing. Therefore, now I am concluding that the spacing should not be more than 394. But however, is it acceptable by the code further, right? Therefore, now let's see, right? However, that SV should be minimum of these two, 0.7 multiplied by D, right? The first one is 435, but even the second one is not, in any case, not more than 300 mm. Therefore, out of these, 300 mm is the minimum. Therefore, now is it acceptable by the code, right? Now what I got, 394, but 394 is greater than 300 mm. No, not accepted by the code, right? Therefore, just from the detailing point of view, that only governs, right? 300 mm will govern the design. 300 mm will govern the design. That is how the design for these stirrups, right? These stirrups also I am designing, right? These stirrups, right? Therefore, at the support I am having these stirrups, right? Let me just increase, right? These stirrups are spaced at support, right? At every 300 mm, right? These vertical stirrups, right? 300 mm. As even if you go, as you move to the center of the support, even the maximum itself is 300. Therefore, I need not change the spacing. Let us say at the support, if you got, let us say, some 150 mm, right? Slowly, as you move to the center of the support, you can increase the spacing to 300 mm spacing, student. That is how the just now we have concluded the design of this beam, right? I got 316 mm as a negative steel, right, which will be continued through and through over the supports, right? At the bottom, right, 312 mm or 216 mm as appropriate. That is left to you, student, right? And as well as the design of the stirrups also we have seen, right? Once we do this, now let me just go at a quicker pace to that of the designs using the STAD for this portal frame, for this for this substitute frame, for this substitute frame at a quicker pace, student, right? Therefore, these are the design of the substitute frame. What I am trying to do, student, now what I'll do is I'll model. Therefore, now I am there in the setup page. I am there in the job. I am defining that this is a substitute frame, and this is the client structural engineering lectures, and you just save a particular directory, which, and also you give the information who has designed, who is checking, and who is approving this, right? Once I conclude this job information, I'll go to the geometry page, student. Now I do have this geometry wherein I am defining all the nodes, right? Therefore, these are my different nodes, right? This is node number 1, right? Node number 1, node number 2, so on and so forth, right? I'm defining this of my node is there at a node at 0, 0, 0, right? XYZ, right? XYZ, right? XYZ in stat, right? At 0, 0, 0, like that. I have given the node 2 is at 500, and node 3 is there at 1000, and node 4 is there at 1500. I have just moved by 4 meter upward, right? Therefore, node 5 is there at 040, node 6 540, node 7 1040, node 8 1540. Now I'll move by 4 more meters high. Therefore, 4 plus 4 8 meters. Therefore, this ninth node is there at 080, 10 580, 11 1080, and the last node, 12th node, is at there at 1580. Once I do that, now I'll define the element connectivity table, right? Therefore, my first element or first beam, now my first beam is that of the column. That first column is connected between this node 1 and node 5. That is how this element connectivity table, or the element matrix will establish the relation between the degrees of freedoms, local and global degrees of freedoms, right? This is how node A means the first node, local node number 1 is connected with the global node number 1 of that of this beam or that of this element, right? That is a local node number 2, B, is connected with the global node number 5 of this frame, right? Substitute frame, right? That is how I have to have these beam numbers and column numbers, right? Whereas this is my column, right? 1, right? 2, 3, 4. Then next beam 5, 6, 7, and that of the next story columns, right? 8, 9, 10, 11. That is how I've just defined that frame is looking like this, right? That frame is looking like this, right? In plan, right? This is how in the span direction I'm taking. In the span direction I'm taking 0.45, student. Please make a note. In the span direction I'm taking 0.45 because in the span direction I require more rigidity, more movement of inertia. Therefore, that is how in the width direction it is 0.45, right? Therefore, that is how the beam is of width 0.45 and the depth is equal to 0.6. That is how my substitute frame for a intermediate story level. Once I define this story, I don't require any other definitions here. Therefore, I will move to that of the next page, right? Now I am there in the general page, student, wherein I am there in the property page. I want to define these columns, right, as 0.4 by 0.3. That is how I can see, right? I can see the columns are now seen with 0.3 width and 0.45 depth, right? Similarly, I'll define the beam is of 0.3 width and you can see 0.6 depth, right? That is how the visualization can be done at a simple manner using these STAD or any other software or ETAP, right? Therefore, I don't have any other specification, student. I'll go to the support toolbar. Therefore, I am defining that these, because I am there an intermediate level. Therefore, I'll assume that bottom as well as the top of these columns, right, are fixed. Therefore, I will just assign 1, 2, 3, 4, and this node, right, 9, 10, 11, 12 as fixed, right. Now I'll move to that of the load based, student, right. I don't have any other definitions other than that of the dead load and live load, because it's a simple problem. I have the load case one. Therefore, I do have the first case is for getting the maximum positive bending moment in this span 5, 6 or AB. Therefore, for that I need to throw the factor dead load, live load on alternative spans, and on the adjoining span only the sorry, on these spans for getting the maximum positive bending moment, I need to put the factored dead load and live load on these alternative spans, right, including that of the span on which we are trying to get the maximum positive bending moment, as well as on the adjoining span. We need to assign only the factor dead load, right. That is how for getting the maximum bending moment in this span 5, 6, right, like that 5, 6, right. Now let us also see the loading for getting the maximum negative moment at this node 6, right, or support moment, for which what we need to do is the adjoining spans of this node, right, means this 5, 6 as well as 6, 7 must be loaded with the factor dead load and live load, whereas the other spans must be loaded with just factored loads, like this, right. Therefore, these are the loading diagram for both the conditions, right. Once understood that, student, now I'll move to that of the analysis page. I'll define the materials, right. I already defined the concrete is my material. Therefore, I have density of the concrete, right, M25 grade concrete, Young's modulus of the concrete as 5000 square root of FCK is equal to 25. Therefore, 25 into 25. Now you can see that the concrete, for this concrete I do have this Young's modulus is equal to given by 25 kilonewton per mm square, like that. Poisson's ratio 0.17 and other values are defined, right. What is FCK is equal to 25 Newton per mm square, for all the members I have defined, right. This is my definition of the material properties for the assumed frame, right. Once I do that, now I'll do analysis using the perform analysis, right. I've just added, and after adding that, now I'll move to the top of the designs, right. Now I'm there, the design page, student, right. I'll go to the concrete design conforming to IS 456 conforming to 2000, right, 456 2000. Therefore, Indian code. Now I'm defining clear cover to the beam reinforcement as 25 mm and clear cover to the columns as 40 mm, and FCK 25 Newton per square for all the members, and FI main steel and that of the secondary steel both 450 Newton per square, as well as the for columns ELY and ELZ both are 1.2 1.1. Just a moment, student, right. How we have taken this, I'll go quickly to the manual calculation, then I'll try to show, right. Therefore, I'm there in this right, at this joint, right, for this frame, right. Therefore, this is what either AH or AI, for which we already calculated what are the stiffness and relative stiffnesses. Therefore, that we already know. The stiffness of this column, the stiffness of the sigma k, sorry, k is equal to 0.2568, and that of the beam is equal to 0.4865. Therefore, now using this IS 456, now what I'll do is I'll go to that IS 456 student, right? IS 456, wherein just movement, right? Wherein I do have, I'm going to do this, right? Page number, I'll go to that IS 456, just wait for a moment, right? I'm there in this IS 456 annex G, right? Annex G, right? Where I do have the effective length factors are given. Right? Therefore, if at all just for normal analysis, the code says that the effective length, this is right. For normal usage, for normal analysis using assuming idealized condition, the effective length LEF may be taken for a plane frame. Now I have considered a plane frame only, may be taken on the basis of this table 28. On the basis of the table 28, right? Like this, right? Therefore, this is how table 28 should effective length factor, right? Now I will have this assumption, right? I am assuming the right, either you can say that both ends are fixed, right? Both ends are fixed. Then you can say that effective length factor is equal to 0.65, but both ends, though they are fixed, because they are subjected to lateral loads, obviously they may be subjected to sway. Therefore, assuming that right, that is a sway frame. Now what I can say that effectively held in position and restrained against rotation at one end means at the bottom end and not at the other end, right? At other end restrained against rotation but not held in position, right? This is what my assumption. Therefore, in such case also, as per this assumption, 1.2, or alternatively what you can do, I'm just taking with this 1.2, or if you are able to prove, starting from fundamentals, that yes, from linear analysis is obtained what is that load in the column and what is the sway, then you check using the stability index Q given by summation of U delta U divided by HU multiplied by HS. Accordingly, if this Q is less than 0.04, the column frame may be taken as no sway column, or otherwise it may be taken as a sway column, right? However, even the code says that even if at all it is a sway column, in the latter case, it is recommended that the effective length may be taken not less than 1.2. Now also 1.2 is the restriction, student, right? Now also, right? Therefore, now also I am taking 1.2 from this code specification. Or if you are further willing, let us say I want to do, let us say even this calculation, right? Therefore, where beta 1, beta 2 are given by summation of Kc divided by summation of Kc plus Kp, means summation of the stiffness of the beams and columns, right? Therefore, just now I have done that in the manual calculation, right? Like this, right? That is how I got the sigma Kc, right? Is 0.256 multiplied by 2, right? Now I got 0.512 divided by the summation of all the stiffness is equal to 1. Therefore, I do have 0.512. Now I'll go to this figure. This figure, assuming it to be a sway frame. Means effective length ratios for a column in a frame without restraints against sway, means it can sway. If at all lateral load is applied like this, then this frame can sway, right? However, whether it is it is a sway frame or not, now you need to check. Just now I have discussed that, right? Therefore, now I do have 0.51, approximately 0.5. Therefore, beta 1 is equal to 0.5. That top end is ending there. Therefore, it is 0. Right? Therefore, for that 0, beta 1 is equal to 0.5, beta 2 is equal to 0. Therefore, both 0 versus 0.5 is meeting at 1.2. Therefore, this is what my effective length ratio, I small l by capital L, then also 1.2. Therefore, from these three criteria, I am taking that effective length in this modeling, in this STAT modeling as 1.2. I hope student you understood how I took the effective length of these columns as 1.2, right? Therefore, once I do that, now I'll assign the maximum main reinforcement for this column as say 20 mm and maximum secondary reinforcement as say the maximum main shield as 20 and maximum secondary reinforcement as 10 mm. And now even I am starting the bar combinations, right? The minimum bar diameter is equal to 12 mm and maximum bar diameter, if at all combination is there, 20 mm. That is how I'm just saying. However, the minimum diameter of the bar should be 12 mm as per the code, and the minimum secondary reinforcement I'm assuming as 8 mm, because nowadays only we do have 500, 415 or 500. Therefore, 415, 500 using that 8 mm 415 grade steel, right? Even now assuming that maximum percentage of the steel is equal to 4, though it is a 6. However, if I put 6%, then it will be very clumsy to put the concrete like this. We cannot put the concrete like this. It will be too clumsy. Now you can see, right? It is too clumsy, right? Therefore, will not do like that. Therefore, I'll restrict it to 0.4. Therefore, and reinforcement 0 means I'm using the tied reinforcement, ties. I'm using ties like this, right? I'm not using the spirals. I'm using the ties in the column, right? Like this, right? Ties or transverse reinforcement or stirrups, right? Therefore, for these ties 0 and R face means the reinforcement is provided equally on 4 faces. Then I'm saying design all these beams, 3 beams, continuous beams, and as well as that of these 4 columns, concrete take and end concrete design. Once I do this, student, what now I'll do is I'll just click run analysis. Therefore, once I run the analysis, I'm just getting the outputs. Just in 1 second, I got this output, student. You can see, right? That is the advantage. That is the advantage of doing the calculations using the software. Now I'll check any failed member is there. No, it is saying no. And whether adequacy check, no, it is not failing. Therefore, that is how I have to have the designs of these beams, right? These beams, right? Now that is how the beam just now I have designed, right? That AST negative from STAT I got 467, whereas that positive steel in the first span I got from STAT as 450 approximately mm square. And even the stirrups just now we have seen from manual calculation also, right? 8 mm dia 2-legged stirrups at a spacing of 300 mm. Just now we have seen that this is from the maximum spacing point of view only. There is a maximum spacing point of view, right? Therefore, once I see this, right, likewise, even if all combinations are given, that is how it will show. Even for the next beam also, it is saying 447 negative steel to 349. Bottom steel is 349. Rest is mirror image, right? Now we'll go to the top of the column, students, right? Therefore, this column design as per IS 456, right, is done. Assuming 40 mm clear cover, M25 grade, Fe 415 grade steel for main as well as secondary reinforcement. Now I require this column is acting as if a short column, right? Is a braced along the longitudinal direction. However, I'm just requiring only 261 mm square. Therefore, it is just 0.67 percentage of the steel, and as well as I only just require 8 mm dia 190 mm square. That I'll show manually also, right? Whereas in the second beam also, now if I go to that second beam, second column, I require the same this one, but now I'll moving to that of the top story column. There I am requiring 1080 mm square, whereas there is no working out 1.01 percentage. However, the percentage of the steel should not be less than 0.8. However, we got 1.01, whereas in the previous column I just got 0.6. That is not acceptable. You restrict it to at least 0.8 percentage. Therefore, for this 1080, now will provide the reinforcement. Let me check. I'll show how much I'm providing. That I'll show, right? Once I do this analysis, even here you can see that the stirrups are provided 8 mm dia rectangular ties at every 190 center to center. Now let us check how much we got from the manual calculation, student, right? This is how now I'm comparing the stat results with that of the manual calculations, right? Manually I got this maximum positive bending moment as 56.91, but from STAD I got 57.3. Let me show that, right? 57.3. Now let us enter into the post processing, student. I am there in the post processing page, right? Therefore, now I do have the beams, right? Okay, the beams I am displaying for the beams, right? For the beams, I'll go to the graphs, right? Therefore, for this first beam, even we already analyzed. Please see this, student, right? We already analyzed at the left end. The STAD is giving 42 negative bending moment at the left end. To the right side 91.5. At the mid span I am getting 51.2, right? Whereas the shear force is varying from 83.9 to 104. You please see this, right? 104, right? 104 here, 104, right? However, let us see this in the second span, right? It is varying from 87.4 to the positive bending moment in the mid span of 41.6 to 63.8. I am there. The load case 2 means this load case 2 will give the maximum negative bending moment at this intersection of the beam with that of this column, what I have highlighted, at this intersection of the beam with that of this column, right? At this intersection, right? Therefore, there I do have the negative steel negative moment varying to that of this one. Later onward, this is not applicable, student, right? Now I am saying that shear force is varying from 98.5 to 89, right? Now let us see. I'll move to that of the load case 1, student. Therefore, the load case 1 is applicable for getting the maximum positive bending moment, right? Here the bending moment at the left 47.2 to the right 72. Previously we saw for load case 2 91, but in the load case 1 how much I am getting? 72. Therefore 92 will govern the design, not 72, using this load case 1. However, in the load case 1 I am getting maximum positive bending moment at the mid span. You can say 57.3 compared to that of the second case. I'm getting just 51.2. Therefore 51.2 will not govern the design, but 57.3, right? Now that is how you can see the shear forces are not governing here, just varying from 88.7 to 98.8. Therefore, I do have the maximum span moment as 57.3. But how much I got manually, right? I got manually as 56.71 against this STAD value of 57.3. Hardly I do have 0.7% error, student, right? Actually, in concrete designs, this much of this error is very small error. It may be neglected, right? Like that at the left support, just now I have shown from STAD I got 47.18, but manually I got 46.84, right? 0.8% error is there. Even just now I have shown from STAD I got 72.59, but manually I got 73.14. Therefore, only just 0.8% error. Even just now I have shown this from STAD I got 98.83 at the right support, but manually I got 99.13, hardly 0.3% error. At the left support I got manually 88.36, whereas STAD 88.67, 0.3% error. Therefore, almost it indicates that my STAD modeling is perfect with the assumptions made in the manual calculations, right? With the assumptions made in the manual calculation, right? Therefore, that is how once these movements are checked, right? Likewise, even you can check with that of the in the second loading condition also, student, right? Just now shown, right? that with manual calculation I got 41.27, but from STAD just now shown I got 42.25, right? Even manual with manual calculation I got 93.46 for the second loading. For the this is how I am there in the case 2 for getting the maximum support moment, right? For the getting maximum support moment. Therefore manually I got 93.46, but STAD gave 91.46. Hardly there is 2.1% error, which is negligible. However, as per the Zenquiz and as per the Zenquiz literature on find element methods, as per the Zenquiz, the error may be up to 7%, 3 to 7%. As per the Zenquiz Zoo error, they say that these authors Zenquiz right, it gives that textbook gives that the error may be 3 to 7%, but hardly I got 2% error only, which is acceptable by the find element modeling, right? And similarly now we have manually 104.19 kilonewton. However, the STAD is giving 103.5, 103.59, like this, 103.59 for this second, right? This one 103.59 or approximately 104, right? That is how almost I don't have any error here. I don't have any error. Only the error is 0.6%. Whereas at the other support 83.31 manually. However, from STAD I got 83.91, hardly 0.7% error, right? Therefore, that is how the check with that of the manual calculations with that of the STAD. Once there are no errors, now let us also check the steel, right? How much of steel we have provided at the mid-span student, right? We have provided a steel of at the mid-span. What governed the steel is only not that of the design steel, but the minimum steel governed 353. But from STAD, what I got just now already shown, right, is 350. Let me just revisit to the STAD, right? 350, like this, right? And then in the beam design student, right, this is how 350. Now you can see just 350. Therefore the STAD as well as the manual calculations both are giving the same result. There is no error, right? And for which you have provided either 3 12 mm dia bars or 4 12 mm dia bars or 3 16 mm dia bars, right, as appropriate, right? And that of the for negative steel we got 471, but from the STAD I got 467. Let us revisit that, right? Where is that 467? Yes, you can see here I got 466.7, means 467. Hardly there is some error. Students, I hope you're understanding these discussions. Hardly there is some error, right? 467 almost manually. Obviously I'll get small error because I'm just substituting 93.66 like that, right? Maybe up to the second decimals, right? Therefore because of that only I'm getting this small error, right? Almost my manual calculations are in line with that of the design calculations from STAD. Therefore I have provided 3 16 mm dia bars as the negative steel at the support, as well as 3 16 mm dia bars as the positive steel, or 4 12 mm dia bars as a positive steel. Even we have seen this spacing of the stirrups. We have provided finally 2 mm dia stirrups at a spacing of 300 mm manually. Even from the STAD I am getting the same. Now you can see, right? Therefore provide two-legged 8 mm dia stirrups at a spacing of 300 mm. There is no change. If you do the modeling perfectly, student, there shall not be any error. In your designs. Finally, once I do that, even I have shown. Let me show designs of these columns, student, right? Here in the once I do that designs of the beams, right? Therefore I am there in the designs of these columns. Therefore I am requiring here 262 in the lower story, whereas I am requiring 1080 mm square, 1080. Therefore out of these two, 1080 will govern the design, like that. Even you can see the intermediate, this one also I am requiring same 1080, not 92 mm square. Therefore 1080 is the design, right? Let us see even what is that deflection under load case 1 at a 2.667, the deflection is 0.14147, right? Whereas for this column the deflection is 0.25 under the load case 1, like that. For the load case 2 I do have 0.224. Therefore either 0.224 or 0.225. 0.25 will govern the design, which is much less than L by 400. My L is equal to 8 divided by 400 means 20 mm is permissible, whereas I do have the deflection, actual deflection as 0.25 mm. Therefore it is within permissible limits, that the relative drift is permissible as per the code, right? Therefore my steel is 1080. Therefore once I do that, now I'll go to the top the designs of the column students using the STAAD. Therefore I'm there in the column designs using STAAD. I got 1080 mm square. However, now I'll provide, because I had assumed that on 4 sides, on 4 faces, the reinforcement is equally provided. Therefore I'll provide, say, 4 16 mm dia bars on the 4 corners, and 4 12 mm dia bars. Therefore 416 plus 412 will give 1256 mm square, which is greater than 1080 mm square. Therefore okay with my assumptions. Then next one is the designs of the ties or transverse reinforcements as per this class 5.3.2 from page number 49, right? Let me go to that page number 49, student, just a moment, right? We'll go to that page number 49 of IS 456, page number 49. Right, I'm there in that page number 49, right? Therefore as per this, now code says that transverse reinforcement, right? Pitch of the pitch and diameter of the lateral ties, right? The pitch should be the least lateral dimension or the 16 times the smallest diameter of the longitudinal reinforcement of the bar, or 300 mm. This is the pitch, and the diameter shall not be the diameter of this transverse reinforcement shall not be less than 1/4 of the diameter of the largest longitudinal bar. However, that diameter in no case shall be less than 16 mm diameter if I am providing the ties. If I am providing the helical reinforcement, then pitch is quite different, right? Therefore using this codal specification, now I am designing even manually, and also checking with that of the STAAD. Therefore if I design manually, I do have the diameter, maximum diameter is just fixed as 16 mm. Therefore 16 by 4, but 4 mm cannot be used, or say let us say 8 mm. Therefore the maximum pitch is the least lateral dimension is equal to 300 mm, and 16 times the least diameter, 12 mm diameter, main shield diameter. Therefore now it works out 192, and in any case this value cannot be more than 300 mm. Therefore out of these 3, 192 will govern the design. Therefore let us say 8 mm dia at 190 mm or 175 mm as appropriate. But how much we got from the STAAD? 8 mm dia 192 from the 192 from manual calculation. But what the STAAD is saying, is that yes, the STAAD is also saying the same, students, right? It is not differing with that of our manual calculation. After all, the STAAD is also written in a source code using these same classes of the IS 456. Therefore even the STAAD is also saying that provide ties 8 mm dia rectangular ties at the rate of 190 mm center to center. Even for the other column also it is saying the same. Therefore that is how the design of the column, that of the main steel. I am providing 416 mm plus 412 mm, 416 and 412 mm, like this. Just wait for a moment, right? That is how I'm just providing, right? 1 2 3 4 416 mm dia bars, right? Like this, 1 2 3 4, right? Even now I'll insert 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, right? 4 more rods in this column, right? And I'm using these stirrups, right? These ties, stirrup, not right? These ties, it is at a pitch of 190 mm, or even you may use less than 190 or 175 or 150 center to center, starting from the starting of the support to the end of the support, the same may be used. The same may be used, right? And that is how the designs, the designs of the beam as well as that of the designs of the columns, the designs of the beams as well as that of the columns, right? And that of the reinforcement details also, right? That is how we have examined in today's class, student, right? That of the design of this substitute frame, wherein we have designed the reinforcement as well as we have now shown, we have seen the reinforcement details also, right? Therefore, I hope, student, you enjoyed the discussions what we had in today's class, right? If you really like the discussions, you don't forget to click like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, right? We'll meet with another discussion in the next class. Till then, bye bye, students.